I'm being serious.
What's up guys? Due to popular request, today I thought I'd go over how you can change the color of just about any effect in Dark Souls 3. Now, as you can see, I've already made a few changes myself, such as the green bonfire and the messages. But in this video, I'm going to be walking you guys through exactly, step by step, how you can do it for yourselves and edit whichever effects that you would like. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, the first step is going to be just choosing an effect, or an effect on a weapon. So for this video, I'm going to be choosing the weapon art of this sword, which is the Profane Greatsword. Now you can choose just about any effect, but you can choose to do this one as well, just to follow along. Now I've already made the weapon buff for this Greatsword here green, but I also want to make the weapon art green to match. So you can see right now, if I do the weapon art, the flame part, that kind of a bursting or cutting effect with the flame is still red, but the green buff, like I mentioned, the green fire that buffs the weapon is already done. So I'm going to be finishing off the rest of this animation here, this weapon art. And the next step is going to be just locating the files for this weapon here, for that exact weapon art, so we can go ahead and change them. Now there's a few different ways that you can do this, and I'm going to go over each different way, and I'm going to show you the different programs that you need to use in order to find these files. Okay, so the first and probably most important program that you're going to need is UXM. Now what this program essentially does is unpack the Dark Souls 3 game files and allows us to go in and view them or make edits. And obviously if we don't have them unpacked, we can't make any edits to the game files, so this tool is an absolute necessity. Next up, you're also going to need DS Anim Studio, or Dark Souls Animation Studio. I'll leave links to this as well as all the other files or programs that you're going to need in the description of this video below. And so you're going to navigate to these and download each of them. This tool, what DS Anim Studio does is allow you to view models and different animations, and then we're going to basically, from there, what we're going to use it for is being able to view the different SFX files associated with different actions. So that one's also important. Next up is Yabber. This is another tool that's used to unpack and repack files, so we need that one obviously. Then we have Yapt, which is going to be another way that we're going to be able to find our specific FXR files that we're looking for. This is a program that allows us to view the different game files. And lastly, you're going to need FXMLR DS3, and this tool allows us to unpack and repack those FXR files. Now, one more important resource that I'm going to leave in the description is this right here, which is the Dark Souls 3 VFX list. And this isn't a program, obviously, but what this is a collection of different effects that have been listed and matched to their different FXR files. So this is a really good cheat sheet, basically. Now, obviously, it doesn't cover all of the effects in the game, but it covers a good portion of them, so this is definitely a good thing to have as well. Now, depending on what changes exactly that you want to make, you may not need all these programs, and oftentimes I find myself using different programs at different times for different changes that I want to make. So you may be just fine getting away with only using Yapt or only using Dark Souls Animation Studio. It basically just all depends on what changes you want to make. Alright, once you have all those resources downloaded, the next step is going to be to unpack your game with UXM. So you're going to need to navigate. Open up File Explorer, go to your C drive, or whichever drive you have Dark Souls 3 installed to. Program files x86, Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Dark Souls 3, Game, and now we're here. Now you won't have all these folders yet if you haven't unpacked your game already, but what you're going to do is you're going to drag UXM into here, into this folder, into a folder here for it. Now you can see I've got the program right here. You're going to double click it, and you're going to double check that the executable path is in the right place here. So you're going to want it to be the last thing to be Dark Souls 3.exe, that executable there. And you're going to do that by hitting browse and finding it, navigating to that exact game folder that we're in. And then you're just going to hit unpack. And as soon as that's done, you're going to come back and you should see all these folders here. And now you're ready to go. Once you have your Dark Souls 3 files unpacked, the next step is to look for the FXR file number that's associated with whatever effect you're trying to change. So remember, for me, it's going to be the weapon art of the Profane Greatsword. And the first place that I'm going to check for that is this little cheat sheet or list right here. I'm going to Control F, and I've already got it up here. I'm going to search for it, and you can see it does in fact come up. Now, depending on what effect you're doing, it may not necessarily be on this list, but don't worry, that's what we have the other resources for, and I'll show you how to find your FXR file number. It's not on here later on in the video. But for now, we see we have two options, and we have the first one here, and then the second one, and I believe what I'm looking for is going to be the second one here, the Profane Greatsword Flare. I believe that's the weapon art flame that we're looking for. So the file number is 440231, and what we're going to do now is come back to this unpacked area here, and we're going to go into the SFX folder. And the next step for you is going to be to unpack all of these files. And what you can do is just highlight all of them. So like this, you're not going to see those folders at the top. You're going to highlight all of them and then just drag and drop them right onto Yabber, and Yabber will unpack them. Now, you may not necessarily need to unpack all those files, so I would start off by just unpacking Common Effect, DLC 1 effect, and DLC 2 effect. These three right here, as they're probably the most common ones when looking for effects. And if you cannot find your FXR file number within any of those folders, either any of those three, then you can unpack other ones and look for them in there. But generally speaking, you'll find most of the effects in these three. So once you've unpacked Common Effects effect, if you're following along, I know that the Profane Greatsword weapon art is in here. You're going to double click on it, go into SFX, effect, and then you're going to search for our number here. We're going to try to find it. And if we remember correctly, scroll down, it was 440. And then it was, if we refer back to our list here, 440231. And you can see that 440231 is right here. And the next step, what you're going to do is open up the other program over here, the FX MLR DS3. And all you have to do is just drag and drop that file, the FXR file, onto the FX MLR program. And it's going to unpack it for you. Before I drag over this file to unpack it, I'm just going to right click on it and I'm going to hit copy. And I've made a little folder here for it just amongst all of my other SFX mods here. And I'm going to go into it, I'm just going to paste it in here. And then I'm going to go ahead and drag this FXR file onto the program. It's going to unpack it for me and make us a text document right here. I can drag this one in here. I've made a little original folder so I can keep that original FXR file. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and modify it. And you can see that by dragging that FXR file onto the program here, it's created a text document or an XML file. And this can be opened by pretty much any text editor there is out there. And so I'm just going to use Notepad, double click on it to open it up. And here's basically where you're going to make all your changes to the colors. Now that you have your effect file open, this is where you're going to make all the changes to the color of your effect. So basically what you're going to be looking for is different RGB values. Amongst all this information, there is, believe it or not, actually different RGB values, but it's our job to hunt them out and change each one of them to our preferred color. I believe that Dark Souls 3 runs off of RGBA values, which stands for red, green, blue, and alpha channels in that order. And so what I'm going to be looking for is those particular values, and those are the ones that we're going to be editing. So to start things off, I'm just going to start scrolling down this document until we come across our first RGBA value, or RGB value, because sometimes they have the alpha channel included, and sometimes they don't. And here we are. Here's our first RGBA value. Now that we found our first RGBA value, what I like to do is usually enter these values into a program such as Photoshop in order to view what the current color is, and then I'm able to make my decisions based off of that. So I'll show you what that looks like now. So what I'm going to do here is open up Photoshop, I'm going to create a new document, and I'm going to make sure it's in RGB color 32-bit, and I'm going to hit create. That should give me some somewhat accurate colors, and I'm able to enter RGB values. And I'm going to hit over here, and it just brought up a little dialog box here, and now I can go ahead and enter those RGB values in. Alright, so now as you can see, I've entered those first three RGB values into Photoshop, and the reason I like to do that is because it brings up, like I said, a color, and I can view exactly what that color was previously or what it is currently in the game right now, and then make my decisions on how to alter it. So we can see here that it's a fairly light orangish looking color, and no matter what color I'm wanting to change the effect to, let's say if I want to change it to blue or purple or green like I'm going to do in this case, I want to just take this slider and I'm just going to bring it up to the green section and find a green kind of color tone that I like. Right about there looks good. And the reason I do that is so I can kind of match the same color tone and same color sort of lightness as it was previously. So it hopefully will give it that dynamic of color and have different colors mixed in. And so I know that I'm matching about the same lightness as it was in orange, but now I'm changing it to green because I want it to be a green effect. Now that I've found a color that I like that matches somewhat how the other color was put in previously, I'm now going to take these RGB values and we're just going to put them right back into that text document. So within these quotation marks here, I'm just going to go ahead and enter in those different values that we just got from Photoshop and put that in. And now we're good to go. We have a pretty much matching values. I can leave those extra digits there because it doesn't matter too much. And we have our RGB and then alpha channel. And alpha channel controls basically the opacity of the color. And so I was talking about lightness kind of earlier. So I've matched the lightness somewhat, but we're still going to keep the opacity normal. Generally, you don't want to play with the alpha channel if you don't have to, or unless you know exactly what you're doing and you're going for a specific effect. So once you've completed your first one, the next thing left to do is to just go through the entire document looking for all the different RGB values and editing them and changing them to be the exact colors that you want. And you may be wondering, well, how do I know exactly what are RGB values and what is just random numbers here? Well, I'm going to explain that as I go throughout the rest of the document. So I've just scrolled down a little bit further into the document, and this chunk of text here I've identified to be a group of different RGB values. You can see we have an RGB value here, got one here, and we got one there, there, and there. Now, you may be wondering, like I said before, well, how do I know exactly what are RGB values? Well, most of it unfortunately just comes from experience and just kind of doing it over and over again, and you'll basically just learn the patterns about where everything is and which ones are RGB values, which ones are not. Now, one tip that I can give you before just telling you to go out and practice is that for the most part, like 98% of the time, RGB values will never be above 1. So it'll be from a range from 0 to 1, but usually not past 1. So if you see any chunk of text that looks similar to this, or looks like it might be RGB values, you see 3 different things and they look like color values. If they're above 2, or if they're above 1 rather, then it's most likely not RGB values. So if you can see right here, as we scroll down, these are some numbers, but we have a 128 here, and we have a 2.5 here, so we know for sure that these are not RGB values. So in order to get practice and learn the patterns of exactly where these RGB values are, what I would recommend is downloading some files that I've left in the description of different ones that I've already edited myself and changed the values of to green. And so you're gonna bring up that same document, and I would just reference my document at the same time as you go ahead and change your document. Now you may want to pick a different color rather than green to change it to, but it helps to just have a reference to go back to and refer as you're looking at the exact same document, but mine will have the changes of the different colors, and you'll be able to see exactly which numbers I've changed, and then you'll need to go ahead and change those numbers for yourself. So I'll leave some of those files in the description, and I would suggest just following along, as basically the way to learn how to do this is just a lot of practice and a little bit of trial and error and just figuring out exactly where these numbers are. In order to finish off making this weapon art green, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through, like I said, and change all the RGB values in this document, and I'm just going to scroll through and keep going. Some of these documents are pretty long, and so it can be pretty time consuming, but the good news about it is that you can do it with just about any effect, and this gives you a lot of control over the game, and you can input exact values of whatever colors you want. So for example, if you wanted to change the color of a black flame weapon art, then just, you know, like I said before, with a lot of practice and trial and error and just learning. For example, I know that black flames, the white part of it, is just all ones. So there would be a 1 here, a 1 here, and 1 here for the RGB values of 1, 1, and 1 for red, green, and blue. That's white. And so what I would do is I'd find that document, I'd open it up, and I'd see all those 1 values, so the white part of that black flame, and then I would change those all to my desired green color. So like I said before, just a lot of practice, and I'm just now going to go ahead and fill in the rest of these numbers with green values, and I'll see you back as soon as that's finished. Okay, now that you've reached the end of the document, you can go ahead and just file, save, to make sure you've saved all those changes that we've made. Then you can close it down, and then you're going to drag it back over onto this program here, and it's going to repack it back into an FXR file. And then we can come back, and we can drag that FXR file back into that original effect folder that's part of our game files, drag it over, and we're going to replace the old one, and put in our newly changed one. And then we're going to come back a step, all the way back to here. You're going to open up your Yabber program again. So we're going to go back to this Unpacker and Repacker. And you're going to drag this main folder, whatever folder that has the changed file in it. You're going to drag it over to Yabber, and it's going to repack it for you. Then you're going to come back one more step, go down to UXM, and then you're going to patch the game. And that should save and update all of the changes that we just made. And now we can go back into the game and check to see if it worked. Okay, now that we're back in game, I can go ahead and demo that same weapon art as before. And there you have it. You can see that weapon art has now been updated to match, and we successfully made those changes. As I said before, if there's a specific effect that you're looking for that is not on this list, then there are still a few other ways that you can find its respective FXR file. So the first way that I'm going to cover here is using that Yaps program. So what we're going to do is just open it up, go into here, open it. Then the next step is going to be to go to File, then you're going to hit Open, and you're going to browse to your Dark Souls 3 game folder, the same way we did at the beginning of the video. You're going to then select your data0.bdt file, and you're going to hit Open on that. I've already done it, so I don't need to do it. And then the next step is going to be to go to Edit, and then you're going to hit Import Names, and then Yes. Now you can see it's loaded up a bunch of different names of weapons and all sorts of different things here along the left-hand side that we can go through. But the main sections that you're going to be looking for VFX files, especially if they're on a weapon, are going to be under Bullet, or they're going to be under Equip Weapon, Equip Param Weapon here. So what you can do is, if you're looking for a specific effect on a weapon, then you can go ahead and you can Control F for it to find it. Or let's say we're looking for, let's say, the Cathedral Knight Greatsword. You can click on it there, and then we can see if we scroll up a bit, we have a number at the top here, behavior variation ID. But if we keep scrolling down and you just look through this right-hand side here, you should be able to find different VFX numbers as well as other information here. So keep scrolling down, we can see it has a hit VFX of 401000, and as well as a dummy poly ID. And it's the same thing for any other weapon in here. If you just select it, you can find information about it on the right hand side. And like I said with Bullet, the same exact thing. There's different weapons here. You can go to Twin Princes and find information about it here on the right hand side. So what you're looking for is just that same VFX ID, so a FXR file number. And that's most likely going to be under either projectile FX ID, and this one does not happen to have it, or there's going to be some numbers on the other section here that's going to say VFX ID next to it. And just give those a try. Like I said, it does still come down to a little bit of experimentation and just practice and seeing what works. But this is another resource that you can use to find those FXR file numbers. Once again, if you're looking for the FXR file of a specific effect, then the last way you can find that file number is by opening up Dark Souls Animation Studio. Then once this loads up, the first step what you're going to do is you're going to head up to File, and then you're going to hit Open, and you're going to go into that same Dark Souls 3 game folder, but this time into the CHR folder, or anywhere else that has these ANI BND.dcx files. And any of these can be opened and viewed, their animations can be viewed. So for example here, I know that Sister Fried is 6020, and Father Arendelle is 6010. So if I open up this one right here, you can see it's gonna load up all this different information here. And here is the Sister Fried and Father Arendelle boss fight, and you can see him. And there's different animations that you can play through. So if I pick a different file such as this one here, and I play through the animation, you can see that different numbers come up here, and this animation here is when he's kind of dumping the lava down, I believe. And you can see that it actually pops up with the different SFX IDs right here. And so here are the actual FXR file numbers for what's happening here and what's being let off in this animation. So you can see we have this one right here, the 660116, as well as we also have the SFX file of 660115. And then you can go back into those respective folders, find those numbers, and then edit those SFX from there. I hope this video helped you guys learn a bit about editing effect files in Dark Souls 3, and that's it for me. I'll catch you guys next time.